Hi, this is Ralph for WeatherWool. I'm sitting here in Camden, Maine with my friend Mike Dean, who is the first WeatherWool Advisor. And Mike is the first WeatherWool Advisor because in speaking with him, the first few times I talked to him, I realized that it would be really good if WeatherWool customers had a chance to hear from, talk to a guy with Mike who has a lot of knowledge, one, the authentic way, knowledge one from actual experience. So Mike's going to tell us about himself, his background, and what he's been doing until now.
Yeah, I grew up in northern Maine, rural lifestyle, pretty much living a half subsistence, half on the town type lifestyle, so a lot of food comes from off the land. Everybody had gardens, everybody hunted, everybody fished, kind of added to the food lottery, which means you don't have to buy the stuff from downtown, which means you don't need a lot of money to do that. Most people didn't have a lot of money anyway, and you grow up living back in those days, what's called a traditional lifestyle, meaning you're going to use traditional woods tools, which are your axes, your knives, your saws. You're going to dress in traditional clothes, which back in those days meant wool, top to bottom, inside and out. I graduated high school, and after that, I pretty much left home. No reason to stay there anyway. So I didn't need my parents to get along. I can get along fine on my own. I didn't really need any help, never have. So I decided I'm going to hike the AT. This was in 1975. I was 18 years old when I left.
And the Appalachian is 2,200 miles, Appalachian Trail?
Yep, Georgia to Maine. I started in Georgia. I took a Greyhound bus with my backpack, which is back in those days, Kelty made the big heavy frame, outside frame ones about this long, about this wide, about that deep, man. You could pack probably 5,000 cubic inches stuff in there. You had the big gummy boots and everything else. The reason I started in Georgia is because I want to be in Maine in the fall and the early winter, so that way I don't have to deal with the bugs.
So 4,000 kilometers you walk back home, basically?
Basically, yeah. I was 18 years old, all by myself. I had a great time. I was friggin' loving it. I was loving it. Actually, I spent an extra 2 days at Roaring Brook up at Katahdin in the lean-to up there simply because I could. I didn't have anywhere to go anyway, so.
So Mount Katahdin's right at the end of the Appalachian Trail.
Well, at the top,
in Maine?
Yeah, that's the end of it. So I had a good time. The Rangers told me I had to leave because they had some paying clients coming in, and I wasn't one of them. So I didn't have a problem anyway. I got back home, and my dad says, well, it's about time to leave, go do something. So there wasn't any work around. I was tired. I'm not going to go to work in pulp and paper mills at the time. I was tired of cutting wood for Great Northern. I says, well, I guess I'm going to go in the military, so I did. And I stayed in the military for 18 and a half years, traveled all over the country, a lot of the world, doing a lot of things for the military. Went to a lot of schools, some good, some badass. Went through 3 national level disasters from 1977 to 1997, I think is when the flood hit Colorado. 3 big ones, wiped everything out I had. I had less than what I got in my pickup truck now when those things got done with me. Spent a year at Pickle Metals. If you don't know what that is, look it up online. That's all I'm going to tell you about that place, because civilians don't really need to know what goes on there anyway. They can't use the stuff that goes there anyhow. So, but I will tell you, a lot of troops in the wars over in Afghanistan were trained at Pickle Metals. A lot of them, when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, our CIA boys, the Green Beret boys, some other guys were trained at Pickle Metals. You can figure it out from there. From there, in 1983, I arrived at what I considered the greatest state in the country, and that would be Alaska. I loved it up there. I got there in the spring of '83, and I left in the fall of '89. I lived on Adak for a good many years, and Adak has to be home to the meanest weather I have ever encountered in my lifetime.
That's Adak Island at the extreme western end of the Aleutian Islands.
Yes, it is. It's 1,200 air miles one way from Anchorage. I've been to a bunch of different survival schools, some civilian, some military. Been to a couple of different SEER schools put on by the military, one's at Pickle Meadows, another one up in Alaska.
And SEER stands for?
SEER is Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape. There's 3 levels of SEER. Most everyone goes through SEER 1 in basic training. SEER 2 and 3 are lots more advanced, especially 3. 3 is pretty much reserved for your special operations teams that are going to do a lot of behind the line stuff, because if they get caught, well, they're in trouble. But it's a lot of outdoor stuff: survival, evasion, resistance, escape. The meanings are what they are. You learn a lot of outdoor stuff, how to take care of yourself in the outdoors with minimal, meaning what you have is what you have. That's what you have to take care of yourself with. But it's a knife, small axe, hatchet, some paracord, some food, some water, some clothes, matches, your guns, ammo. That's pretty much what you got. You have to pay attention. You have to survive out there for X number of days, X number of times with that type of gear. That's the military's typical survival schools. I've been to survival school, a couple of them up in Alaska, the cool school up at Allison. It's a really great school. That's on Arctic survival. It's not too long, but it's very intense. Been to one on Whidbey Island in Washington State. That's more like survival in the rainforest type deal and living outdoors in a traditional lifestyle, which is what I liked anyway. I had a great time in that one. That was a couple weeks. It was a lot of fun. Did a lot of fishing, did some hunting, learned some primitive bushcraft skills, built shelters, things like that. In the rainforest, I'm washed with rains every day, so you can imagine the headaches that compounds. How to get fires going in a 3-day rain, that's interesting. But it can easily be done if you know how to do it. Basically, it's really simple. You find a dry, dead standing stub, tree stub standing dead. You take your axe, not a knife, but an axe, because you always should have that with you. Make a cut here, make a cut on the bottom, about 1 foot apart. Cut it down here, put your axe in there, pry that out. That outside is wet. The inside is dry as a bone. Get a bunch of that, that's your tinder. Get some dead, dry spruce branches, just knock them off with the axe, get them up there. Take down the dead stub, split it, and the inside of that is where your dry wood, you fire it. I don't care if it's been raining for 3 days or not. You can get a fire going, you can keep it going that way. That's the easiest way to do it. It's fast, it's simple, but you need an axe to do it. A hatchet will do it, but you're going to be spending a lot of time doing it that way. Learn how to build shelters. I went to an advanced school. I got picked when I was up in Alaska on ADAC to go to a advanced cold weather survival guerrilla warfare school up in the interior of Alaska. It was 600 hours, which is about 12 weeks. You had to graduate with an 85%, but they told you wouldn't be operational unless you graduated 90%. I think I was in 93 or 95% range. There's only one guy that did better than me, and that's because he got his shelter up a little faster than I did, an improvised one. What you're designed to do is they'd want to send these small unit teams out to this location, to this location. That's when Russia was thinking about invading Alaska like the Japanese did in World War II, and they wanted people around, stationed around various areas of the state. So the school went over basic and advanced SEER techniques. A lot of our instructors were old-timer Eskimos, trappers, hunters, fishermen that have lived in that state, subsistence living the whole life. Taught a lot of tricks: how to make fires fast, how to get shelter quick, how to lay a different type of trail here, how to trap different animals, how to skin them, how to make fish wheels, how to make gill nets. What basic tools are absolutely hands down necessary for survival and living long-term in the woods. What clothes you need to have with you. What 2 guns that you need to have with you, which is a big game rifle and a .22 pistol. That's what you need, and ammo. How to make professional snares out of copper wire. How to run different types of snare lines. How to make a bunch of different deadfalls. How to make some trigger traps, spring pole traps, things like that. How to survive really, really cold by digging a hole in the snow and just caving it in over you with a breathing hole. You'll be surprised. It may be 20 below outside, but it's going to be about 40 degrees inside. With the right clothes, you'll be warm. We had a dead seal, I remember, and they told us how to skin it, which is stinky, but the the steel blubber makes a really good candle and heat from a bowl. You can put it in there and it will last a long time, and it's portable. You can also eat the fat, the blubber. It's hard to get down. I had to hold my nose to choke it down, but I did. But what it does, it gives you a huge, it's all fat. It's all 100% fat. But when you get it in there, in about 20 minutes, your body starts to feel this big energy boost and a lot of heat from it, because that's a bunch of calories going into your system really fast. It's good to know stuff like that in emergencies, because you may be a couple days without food. How to get water when you got 2 feet of ice on the rivers and lakes. How to move the snow out of there using your snowshoe. How to fix your snowshoes. How to make snowshoes. How to keep your gun functional in the really cold weather, like 20, 30, 40 below. How to layer efficiently your clothes, because without that, you're not going to make it anyway. How to make moccasins. How to fix the ones you got. Things like that were all learned in the school. But they shut it down after 4, 5, or 6 classes. I'm trying to remember, but it's been a long time. Simply because they couldn't get enough people to graduate to do what they wanted to do, because the school was so damn hard. And they didn't want to compromise the standards, because that's going to compromise the mission that they wanted to do. So I was one of the lucky few that made it through the schools before they closed it down. I had a great time. To me, that was really, really good, because hell, the government is paying me to basically learn camping and survival skills. Taught by really, really hardcore professionals who've been doing it their whole life, and they're actually paying me to do what I love to do. Yeah, you can't get any better than that. So then I went and did it on my own, up in Alaska, up around Talkeetna, subsistence lifestyle, which you do basically the same thing. That helped me tremendously. Going through the 3 natural disasters, I fell back on the training I grew up as a boy, the training I had in the military, and the training in civilian schools I had. I went to one of the best schools I went to was in Arizona, put on by Larry Dean Olson. He used to be he started the survival craze from what I think. He wrote a book called Outdoor Survival. I got an original copy in 1967 in the room there. He used to put it on Southern Utah. It's mostly about desert survival, which was okay, because like he said, you can take that survival and transfer it to any place in the damn country using the same techniques. All you gotta do is just adjust them. Instead of using yew wood, for instance, to make a bow, use hornbeam and ash. The fire building, instead of using some of the yucca plant stuff, use birch bark. So it's all transferable to a different type of terrain. That was a fantastic school. Of course, Larry, I don't think he's alive anymore, but if he was, I'd tell everybody that's interested in stuff like this, take a class with him. I don't care what it costs, it'd be more than worthwhile. The guy was a friggin' genius. He used to teach school in Utah. There was a regular course on outdoor survival there. He was just a fantastic outdoor survival teacher school. It's just great. I also took a small course with one of our WeatherWool Advisors, Cliff Jacobson, way back in the day on some better canoeing techniques. Cliff's a really good canoer, has been canoed all over the world. Definitely knows a lot about it. Went to another military school down in Mississippi, DeSoto National Forest. Anybody down there will know what I'm talking about. That's a mean place to go to a school. It's very hot, it's very humid, there's a lot of snakes, but that was more on the headed toward the jungle survival stuff, because it's wet down that friggin' place all the time, and it's nasty and it's humid. There again, that's a basic military hardcore survival school. I went to survival school in Panama. In fact, I think Ralph met some guys that were down there with. That's a tough school. You're going through a really jungle warfare survival school down in Panama. Again, that can transfer up into North America by doing the same stuff. You're just using different materials and different techniques to do it, but it's basically the same thing. So they all compound together, which brings me to modern day now, I guess. Up in Alaska, when I was up there, you had several ways to get around. And how much money you had? If you had a lot of money.
You left the military what year?
93. After the Gulf War. Well, a couple years after it. But in Alaska, when I was up there, and still today, you have several ways to get around. If you're rich or wealthy, you got a bush plane. If you're just below that level, you probably got a snowmobile. But snowmobiles are notorious for breaking down, but lots of people got them. I'm talking back in my day now. The other way was dog teams. Lots of people had dog teams, but you got to pay for the things and you got to feed them all friggin' through the summer. I had none of that stuff. The other way is what turn of the century people used to do. They had dog teams or they pulled the toboggans themselves, hand-hauled toboggans. It's a good way to travel. It's quiet, you're independent. You got to be very, very attentive to what you pack on it, because even though you got a toboggan that's about 10 foot long, you can only carry so much stuff. So you're going to have a tent, you're going to have a wood stove, you're going to have your basic clothes, you're going to have your kitchen kit, you're going to have your food, you have your guns, you're going to have your snowshoe, and some survival items and some first aid kit, and that's all you're going to be able to get on that thing. It's going to weigh 100, 125 pounds, but you can pull it on the lakes and rivers, actually travel routes. But you use what's in that toboggan to live on the land as you're going from point to point to point. If you're running a trap line, you're going to haul that with you. The traps go on there, set them up. You go back there and check them every day. They come on, throw it on there, but you're living out of that toboggan. So your survival skills had better be really, really good, and your bush skills had better be really, really good, because you're not going to be 4 miles from town. You're more likely going to be 40 or 50 miles from anybody. So your skills in the outdoors have to be up here. They can't be down here. You're not going to make it down here. You need to be up here. And that's where you start to train your mind to take maximum skill up here, brain power, minimum gear, because you can get by with less gear than what you really think you need. So I did that for a lot of years up there. Moved back to Maine, wanted to live a subsistence lifestyle, but of course you can't do that in this state. They make it too hard. You couldn't do it anyway unless you got money. You got to run a small farm. But I have taken a lot of trips. I got a camp way the hell up north. It's very remote, even by state of Maine standards, and I want it that way. So I go up there and I spend a lot of time in the winter up there because it's my favorite time. I run snare lines up there. I hunt the rabbits. I roam all over that place at will with my toboggan and my winter gear because I can. There's no one up there to tell me I can't. I don't have a time clock. If I get home that night to where I'm camping, fine. If I don't, I don't really care about that either. I can put up an improvised shelter, roll up a sleeping bag, throw the top over it. I'm good to go. I got food. I know how to get water. I can get more food if I need it. I was carrying a titanium ice chisel, which is a new thing I've got because it's lighter than my old one. I can get water if I want. There's some streams up there. The one in front of my camp runs year round and runs into the lake. But if I make the camp, that's fine. If I don't, like I said, I don't really care. It isn't going to bother me at all. If it snows 2 feet, well, that just gives me a little bit easier pulling and a lot more snow to snowshoe. So I don't really care. I've done it many, many times. It's got me 10 to 15 miles from camp. Big deal. Make your improvised camp, put you up your shelter, get your 10 by 10 tarp or 10 by 12, which I carry now. I don't carry an 8 by 10 because it's not substantial enough. Even though books say it is, I'm telling you it's not. A 10 by 12 makes it a lot more comfortable and a lot better. Get your improvised shelter up, get your fire going, get your food going, get your water going, get your clothes a little bit dry, change into clean, dry underwear, put your ones up near the fire on a drying rack like that. Maybe not that elaborate, but get it on a drying rack, dry them out. When you're done, do whatever you want to do. If you want to go to sleep, crawl in a sleeping bag and go to sleep. You should have an air mattress. You don't need to make a bow bed anymore because, well, the air mattress kind of take it, even though I make a light coating of about 2 or 3 inches. Put the air mattress down there, put the sleeping bag on there. I generally take the WeatherWool and line the inside of the bag. I don't wear it because you're going to get too hot. Line the inside bag because I want more under me than I do over me. Climb in there with my 400 weight wool power, put my wool balaclava on, zip that bad boy up, and I'm sleeping. I don't care if it snows 2 feet or 3 feet. It ain't going to matter to me if it's 10 below or it's 30 below. My sleeping bag can handle 30 below without even thinking about it. I've had that bag down a lot colder than that. The coldest weather I've had my sleeping bag in has been 47 below and I've been warm. Using that techniques right there, which I learned in the schools and the military outdoor schools and the civilian outdoor schools.
But the reason we created the advisor program actually was because about 2.5 years ago, I got a call from this gentleman sitting on my left, Mike Dean, and I spoke with Mike, at length over the next few months, and I realized that Mike knows a lot of stuff. He can tell it in a very entertaining way. His knowledge is won in real world situations, not so much by reading books. He has read a ton of books, but his knowledge has all been tested out there where it counts, where you get in big trouble if you don't know what you're doing. And I thought Mike would be a great guy to have on film and to have available to WeatherWool customers to talk to. And so that's where the advisor program came from. Mike is the first advisor. That's why he's listed first on the advisor page. We have about maybe 60 advisors now, but it all started with the idea that I really liked the idea of people being able to talk to someone like Mike. And there aren't a lot of people like Mike. There probably are some others out there, but I haven't run into him yet.